And joining me in the neighbourhood, as she does on a regular basis in her capacity as the President of the Shire of Serpentine Jarrahdale, I say a very good morning and welcome to Councillor Michelle Rich. Good morning, Madam President.
Good morning, James. Thank you very much for having me on.
Great to have you in, Michelle. And no rain this morning, which is always nice, but plenty of rain throughout the week, which has been great to see.
Our farmers are loving the rain. I'm not loving the cold mornings, but we've got to take the good with the bad with this.
We all drag out the winter warmers at this time of the year, don't we? Remember the wardrobe and have to expand it with, don't know about you, but we've got to shift things out of the wardrobe so that they go into another place when we have the change of seasons. The wardrobe gets a bit chockers otherwise. And the winter gear in itself is not the time of the year that people think of, and my previous guest, federal member for Burt, Matt Keogh, made reference to fire seasons and everything else, but winter's the time that those that have acreage and whatever else, it's really, this is the time of the year they should be getting their house in order as far as vegetation, and we mentioned this last time you were in about, tidying properties up and...
Oh, yeah, for sure. This is the time of year where you should be out tidying your garden. If you've got a larger property with a larger garden or acreage, getting through and making sure that everything is tidy, put away and getting ready for the next bushfire season, because it's too late once you hit the bushfire season to try and get ready. Now is the time of year to do it. So if you've got pruning that you need to do and be able to burn off and that kind of thing, now is the time.
Absolutely. If you've got the acreage and you've got undergrowth, etc., to clear or whatever, this is the time to start pruning those big trees, lopping this, lopping that, and having the burn offs. And please make sure that the fires do actually burn, don't smoulder and smoke for days. Please, I hate it.
I know my family. We've spent a couple of weekends going through and checking things out, making sure that things are pruned back to the right distances and that kind of thing, to make sure that our volunteer fire brigades have room to get in if they need to.
Yep.
And we're yet to burn, but we will. And make sure you register your burn with DFAS, so when your neighbours ring up and complain, that DFAS can say, oh no, we've got a registered burn that is registered there. They are doing a bushfire clean-up type thing. So there's lots of little bits and pieces you can do to help yourself along the way in that space.
Absolutely. And talking of fire and things related, the proposed Oakford fire station, where it should be. There's a survey, or you're calling for comment on that at this point in time?
It is out for public comment at the moment. Shire officers and some of the local volleys from Oakford and some other people have been involved in looking at a couple of different sites. So they've come up with 4 shortlisted sites. So now it's out for public comment. We do have an advisory group in place. It's got a couple of councillors, a couple of people from the Oakford Fire Brigade, a couple of Shire officers, and the newly employed SESM, which is our Community Emergency Services Manager on board. So they will go through and look at the comments that come back from the community and make a recommendation to council.
Ordinary, but if you've got anything to input there, the feedback survey is still available online. So go to the Shire's website and make your comments there.
That's it. It's if you want to have some input, this is your opportunity. Survey closes on I think it's the 22nd of July. So you still got a bit of time, but we're in the situation where our Oakford Fire Brigade and station is situated on land that is not Shire owned, or it's not vested in the Shire.
Oh yes,
it is privately owned, and the tenanture there is very short. So we could get through a 12-month time period and be told you've got to move.
Yeah,
and that's not, in my view, not acceptable for our brigade to have that kind of thing hanging over them.
Sure.
They need to know that they are safe. They have a home. and that it is a long-term home of where they sit. So, and that's why the Shire is going through the process that it is going through at the moment.
Well, being such a critical part of the community support, to have that sort of potential tap on the shoulder and you've got 12 months to get out of town, not acceptable.
No, it's not. Our volunteer brigades serve a crucial role in protecting our communities during the bushfire season and other times of the year with a lot of the volunteer work that they do within the community.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's only fair that they have some certainty of their area moving forward. And the Oakford Brigade gets an extremely large amount of call-outs during the year.
Mm-hmm.
They are not just a brigade that goes out every now and then. They are constantly called out. So our brigade members out there do a huge amount of voluntary community work, and I think it is only fair that they have some permanency. They have some certainty in where they're going to be located and how they then operate from that location.
Mm-hmm. So great to see that consideration happening, proposals being considered, more importantly submissions and comments from those who feel if you've got something to say, now's the time to say it.
It is, and I have been watching some of the comments on the Shire's Facebook page in regards to this issue, and I think the other thing that people probably need to be well aware of is the future planning for the Oakford area, especially in the road network area. Oakford is an important strategic location for transport routes, and I think it's common knowledge where nobody's going to back down from the fact that our road network in SJ is not up to the standard that it should be, and that there is a lot of work that needs to be done in that space. And we do know that there is road changes and road upgrades coming, especially in the Oakford area.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing needs to be taken into consideration as well.
Absolutely, and again, I mean, you're up front about it. There's always, and has been for a long time, with the growth within the Shire comes again people's expectations that suddenly things are going to change overnight in terms of and major infrastructure such as roads and whatever else, with the developments that continue to be upmost in the Shire's planning. People just have to be just a little tolerant in terms of what they see as what they get for the immediate future, in terms of it all comes back to cost and prioritising. And
it does, and unfortunately Rome wasn't built in a day.
So to that extent, if you live local, please, yes, it doesn't hurt to have a chat with your local Shire councillor. But as far as the road situation is concerned, things are improving.
They are. And
that's what is positive. And to that extent, very busy, full houses is probably the most apt expression. Ordinary council meeting held recently, extended over a couple of meetings to look at draft local planning strategies.
Yes, our special council meeting went over 2 nights. We had 4 items to deal with on the agenda to adopt the new planning strategy for the area and the new town planning scheme number 3, which has been nearly 32 years in the making.
Wow.
Our last town planning scheme number 2 was gazetted by the state government, I think it was the 4th of August 1989. So it's been a long time coming, given the significant growth especially that we've had in the last 10 years or so, and something that has been badly needed to be able to move us forward strategically, planning-wise, into the future.
And for those who weren't able to get along, are there any minutes or opportunities to sort of familiarise themselves with what was discussed or tabled? Or
look, the minutes are available from there's 2. Well, there's one special council meeting held over 2 nights. The minutes are available on the Shire's website. There was a lot of amendments put forward. Some supported, some not.
Yep.
So it is all there to read in the minutes. So if anybody is interested and they want to have a look, jump on the Shire website and have a read.
And of course there will be the appropriate publications, I imagine, that come from the forward planning that happens. But yes, if you are in the neighbourhood and are someone that's very much perhaps even as a long-term resident, 30 years isn't that long, but it certainly is if you are a local resident. And my, how things have changed.
They've changed dramatically, and now that it's gone through council, it's been endorsed by council. It now goes back to the West Australian Planning Commission. Mm-hmm. My understanding is that they have 120 days to deal with that.
Yep.
And come back to us. So, touch wood, everything flows through very smoothly.
Under the banner of planning, we understand that, of course, the most recent, or amongst other subjects for public consultation, the upcoming joint development assessment panel will be looking at and considering the application from Austral Brickworks, their Cardup site, to extend and I suppose breathe some life into a very important business.
Yes, it is out for public comment at the moment. My understanding is that the public comment timeframe was extended.
Mm-hmm. It has been extended. Sorry, I wasn't aware of that.
My understanding was that it was extended from June into July.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And that will close soon.
I think it's closed the other day, June 2.
June 2, July 2?
Yep, July 2.
Okay.
Sorry, July 2.
So the process now is that all of the submissions that have been received
mm-hmm.
will be go through the process with the Shire officers.
Yep.
The Shire officers then need to produce a regulatory authority report,
mm-hmm.
which is provided to JDAP.
Yep.
And that report will go through council for council endorsement, and then be provided to JDAP for the JDAP to make a decision.
Yeah. And that whole process, I mean, any business operator within the Shire is required and has the obligation to work within the state and federal legislation, any state laws, certainly local government needs to approve or to certainly acknowledge that, yes, this is something we do want to support. As well as, of course, the substantial environmental impact that any business potentially may or may not have.
Look, I think in the circumstances surrounding operations and businesses like this, it's where you get a clash of past and present. Mm-hmm. The brickworks have obviously been in place in Cardup for a very long time.
Yep.
And when they would have been first built in place, there was no residential development around them. We now have residential development in that area. So you get a clash of uses, land uses,
mm-hmm.
and that is something that has to be worked through. I can't say either way which way that would go. All I can say is that all of the information presented will be taken into consideration in the decision-making process. So it's something that is sitting on the table with our Shire and our residents and the business concerned at the moment,
mm-hmm.
and there is a process in place that needs to follow, and that is how it will be dealt with.
And the Shire, as one would reasonably expect, will be forthright in any concerns, requirements that it may have, will be tabled, and that's part of the final consideration, because the final approval remains with the Joint Development Assessment Panel, which is made up of... are there any local representatives on that?
There is. Councillor Lauren Strange and myself are the two local government representatives on the Joint Development Assessment Panel for our area,
mm-hmm.
as well as 3 specialist members that have planning, environmental,
yes.
and as such backgrounds.
Yep, all that other expertise to bring to the table. So watch this space. Any ideas sort of how long this part of the process is likely to take? There
is standard timeframes that are set in place through the planning framework, mm-hmm. for this to be dealt with. So I would assume that there will be an RAR report come to council in the near future, and then it will be dealt with by the Joint Development Assessment Panel soon after that.
Now you've done what we all do. You've used an anagram there, the RAR.
is a responsible authority report.
Yes, thank you. It's a trap for all of us in our busy world. Communication is what this is all about, and clearly the Shire is very open in dealing with everybody. And this is the challenge that you face, you and all local governments, is getting that balance between the good, the bad, the ugly.
Unfortunately, with things like this, we can never keep 100% of the people happy. Somebody is always going to be not happy, and I think the main part of this that the council and the Shire needs to concentrate on is that we take into consideration all of the information put forward, whether that be from the proponent and the business operator, whether that's from members of the community, whether that's from state government departments that are actually asked to comment on these kind of processes as well. Mm-hmm. So there is a large volume of information that comes in and needs to be taken into consideration with any decision making in this kind of space.
Absolutely, and given the growth within the Shire of Serpentine Jarrahdale, this type of issue is just going to keep on raising its head.
We will see more issues like this in the future as development happens and industries that have been in place for a number of years or for a very long time are encroached upon.
Absolutely. My guest in the studio at the moment, Madam President for the Shire of Serpentine Jarrahdale, I refer to Councillor Michelle Rich. She's with us for a little longer, 23 minutes past 10. I need to say thank you to some of our station sponsors today and tomorrow. Sunshine all over the place. Hey, that's a great opportunity. Can I ask for perhaps a bit of a plug? Can we give the Shire a real boom here, because this is the time when people, COVID excluded, when you've got the opportunity to sort of start appreciating what's on your doorstep, that we know we've been told to get out and, what does it, go yonder? Look
wander out yonder.
Wander out yonder. And there's no better place to do it than within the Shire.
Look, the numbers of people we've had through the COVID lockdown, mm-hmm. because they can still travel to SJ.
Yes.
To come out, and it's cheap. You know, some of the trails there is a donation that you need to pay, mm-hmm. but most of them, are free. They're outdoors. You're away from people, pretty much, and what there is to see is just unbelievably magnificent. The natural environment that Serpentine Jarrahdale has to offer with our trails network is just, it's beautiful. And it is worth getting out, having a look around. We're close to Perth. It is accessible to everybody. Most of our trails are actually easier trails, so they're great for kids. They're great for some of our seniors to get out and have a wander around. Mm-hmm. Our little coffee shops, and call in, grab a coffee and a cake as well. Look, I could not recommend more than I can that people get out and have a look, because it is absolutely beautiful.
And there is, again, that tourist element, both with accommodation, because, there are opportunities. If you want to get out of that city environment, if you want to get out of that suburban feel, you've only got to go half an hour down the highway.
We have a couple of small accommodation things. There's a few bed and breakfasts around within the Shire. There's a few short stay accommodation cabins and that kind of thing. Jump on the internet, have a Google, because they will come up, and it is just, it's beautiful.
And I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a fabulous update on the Shire's website regarding trails for you to be able to have a look at and just decide and work your way through them is probably the best way. Start at the top, work your way down.
The Shire in this last week have updated the Shire website, and we have a dedicated SJ Trails page now to the website. We cover equine trails, we cover walking trails, we cover mountain biking trails. There's a bit of everything. So people, depending on what their interest is, what they're into, we have a couple of equine businesses that are offering trail rides where you can go along. You pay your fee, they provide a horse and all the equipment to go with the horse. There's a couple of other businesses that work in consultation with those ones that then can provide, light lunches, a bit of a snack, all of that kind of stuff. So there is a huge amount of stuff to do. It's just jump on the Shire website, have a look, because we've got a lot of the trails there listed with short descriptions of what they are and what you can do in those areas. So, look, I know most weekends I try to get out somewhere within the Shire and just go for a walk. It is just absolutely magnificent what we do have on the doorstep to Perth.
And to that extent, I do want to throw a plug in for our good friends at the Jarrahdale Heritage Society Walks. This is not... it's an adjunct to what we're saying in terms of, the uniqueness of Jarrahdale as a destination. We've mentioned many a times.
And our Jarrahdale Heritage Group, what they do and offer as volunteers in the Jarrahdale area is unsurpassed. They offer guided walks, so you can actually register for their guided walks.
Yes.
They have a website of their own. They have a Facebook page of their own where they advertise their guided walks, the times, dates and all of that. So if you want to go on a guided walk where they can point out what the wildflowers are and what the native animals and all that kind of stuff is, jump on and go on one of the guided walks. They are great.
And a bit of a plug here, the next one is Sunday the 26th of July, Sullivan's Rock to Mount Vincent. It's only a very nice 9-kilometre wander, bit of a meander. There is a shorter option, but that's only one of the many walks that are available over the next few months. They're all wonderful destinations, and the site of Jarrahdale is itself, as we know, a beautiful old heritage location, trying desperately to retain that beautiful, unique country feel, built on and around trees. It forms part of that very rich history.
It is an old timber town, so it has a very rich history in WA with its timber. My belief is that there is still roads in both London and Paris that are paved with
wood
Jarrah from the Jarrahdale area.
Jarrah blocks,
what they used to, I believe, call the Australian mahogany. So, we do have a very rich history that comes from Jarrahdale and is world-renowned.
We were talking about business. I just want to come back to the support and acknowledge the Shire doing its bit in supporting the upcoming workshop being run, I think, in conjunction with the Peel Development Commission, happening. This is a free event, by the way, happening on Thursday the 9th of July to help give people tips and encourage people to get involved in tendering with government opportunities.
With governments, Look, if people aren't familiar with the processes to be able to tender for government work or government contracts, it can be a bit daunting. I know in the past the Shire have run workshops to actually help our local businesses understand the process for local government tendering. And now with the Shire and the Peel Development Commission, they are running a workshop to actually help people understand and make that process to apply for state government tender processes a lot easier and a lot easier to understand and navigate. And
it's also in its own way perhaps trying to entice people to challenge themselves, because if you are an experienced individual or someone that perhaps doesn't even tender with government work, then by coming along and participating in this, coming along being, of course, it's a free workshop. It's not. Yes, it's going to be held down at the Shire offices.
It is being held in Mundijong, and I think these type of workshops to be able to help our smaller local businesses are very timely. We're seeing a lot of stimulus packages coming out from government to help stimulate the economy because of what's happened with the corona pandemic.
Sure.
So with those stimulus packages, to stimulate the economy, we need to make sure that our smaller businesses and our local businesses have the opportunity to tender and gain the work through these stimulus packages. So, these types of workshops are extremely important to make sure that we are helping our local businesses in this area.
Very much so, and it's an opportunity for you to start thinking big. If you live local, run a business, want to get involved in government tendering, and I understand that there will be a procurement officer, a government procurement officer there, along with a panel of others to take on not only passing on information, but there'll be the standard Q&A for you to be able to throw at them, perhaps your unique experience or those burning questions you might have. But just check it out on the city, the Shire of Serpentine Jarrahdale's website. The opportunity is there. It's organised through the Peel Development Commission, and that is happening, if you really want to know, on Thursday the 9th of July. So that's this week. You need to get involved, and the rest of the details you'll find, registration, whatever. But I emphasise my favourite F word, apart from food, it's free.
It's free.
So keep moving on that, and well done again, because the Shire is very aware of the support for all of our business operators, and we know, again, re-emphasising the tough times that everybody is experiencing, the challenges that are being created. Michelle, the other recent thing that perhaps needs to just be updated on, if I can, because the last time we spoke, the telecommunications issue, you're throwing out a bit of a survey, people, given an opportunity to have their two lobs worth, get a few responses.
It's not just months, it's years. There is telecommunications issues right across the width and breadth of the Shire. And we've got to the point where there was so many issues, and they're not all just the same issue. They are so varied in what the issue is, right across the different areas. So we had spoken to Andrew Hastie, our federal member for Canning, who obviously covers all of the Serpentine Jarrahdale area. And, as telecommunications are a federal issue, they're not a state issue. So we've had a few conversations with Andrew and agreed in moving forward our best bet was probably to run a survey to actually gather as much information as what we possibly could from our residents. So the Shire did put together a survey that was put out into the community. It closed on the 18th of June. We received around 550 survey responses from across all the different localities in the Shire, from 13 different localities. And, given the volume of responses we have received, which has been fantastic, the officers now are working through correlating all of that information and seeing what it says and putting it together into basically a report. And, once we have all of that done, we will then meet with Andrew Hastie as the federal member and go through what the outcomes and the findings of that survey are, and try and find a way forward to improve telecommunications across the Shire.
Absolutely critical, and again, all born out of growth and development. More pressure, another issue that we want solved now. But
it's the pandemic has probably actually helped us pinpoint what some of the issues are in this space as well. Obviously, with people pretty much in lockdown there for quite a while, and working from home, trying to study from home. It shows where the shortcomings are, but there is longer term historical issues that have been there that haven't been fixed and haven't gone away. We have large concerns with telecommunications, with medical conditions for some of our people that live in our area. We obviously have the safety issue with communications, especially with accidents and bushfires and that kind of thing. We've got Jarrahdale. Once the power goes out in Jarrahdale, they've got about an hour's battery backup for their telecommunications tower, and then they're without telecommunications. So, given the fact of what they're 45 k's from the centre of Perth, is that really acceptable in this day and age?
Crazy.
I think that we should be able to do a lot better in that space, and we will work very closely with our federal member to find a way forward in this space.
And for all of the right reasons, make contact with Andrew Hastie's office, and whether you participated in the survey or not, let him know how important this is to you and your family, your business, and everybody that lives local in terms of this prioritising and supporting, just exactly as you say, Michelle. It's not something the Shire can fix.
It's not something we can fix, but the one thing we can do is work with the people that can fix it and advocate extremely strongly in support of our community, whether it's our residential community, our school communities, our business communities, to have the tools they need to have in place to do what they do. Absolutely
critical. And as you say, the pandemic has highlighted so much, and all we're asking for is pretty much an even playing field here.
Yeah. Obviously people pay their bills to have access to telecommunications. We want them to have what they're paying for. We want a reliable service. We want a service that's going to work. We want a service that's going to, work through all types of weather events and that type of thing. Obviously, there is times where it is going to go down and we're not going to have access, but that should be a relatively small window, not a large occurrence that happens on a regular basis.
No, quite true. In a positive way, given that we're all able to get out and pretty much do here in Western Australia what they can't do on the East Coast, great to see that the land care planting sessions are back on the board.
Yeah, favourite time of year.
Absolutely.
Not overly keen on being out in the cold with them, but to be able to get out and outside and plant trees and help establish and rehabilitate areas within our Shire, it's a fantastic opportunity.
And we live in a beautiful green environment, and we want to make sure that continues. And I think you've got no less than about 10,000 trees that we want to get planted across the Shire, which will happen in an organised way. But I just, like yourself, I'm sure, encourage everybody to get involved in these planting days, whether you do it as an individual, as a family group, a social group, an employers type of social club gathering. There are lots of ways that you can get involved in these daily one-off events.
Do you know what? If you want to get involved in this and get outside and help do something positive for the community, give Francis and his team at Landcare a ring. They are always looking for volunteers that can get out and help plant, and they will welcome any help that they can take in that space. They do a wonderful job. Their aim this year is to plant around the 10,000 trees, but they're also looking at giving away around the 2,500 plants through the Shire's the joint venture between the Shire and Landcare to give away free verge trees and plants to residents within the Shire. So there's a lot of ways you can be involved. They do run a couple of community events in tree planting days with Are You OK Day and that type of thing. So you can jump on the Landcare's got their website, they've got their Facebook page where they'll have their calendar of events up. Jump on, have a look, and if there's a day that interests you, give Francis and his team a ring and get involved.
Absolutely, and with the support of the Shire, we want to keep the neighbourhood green, and those trees just keep on growing. Talking about green and growing, last time I think you were just talking about the launch of a opportunity to get involved. If you've got a butte garden, the council, the Shire wants to see the prettiest, the best. You've got a few different categories, but is that competition still going?
It is still going. It's open until sometime in September, so people still have
plenty of time.
Plenty of time to get involved. But this is our inaugural garden competition. So look, I would urge anybody that has a green thumb, whether it's a couple of tubs in the backyard in a courtyard, or whether it's a huge acreage garden, put an application in, get involved, because it doesn't matter how big or small a garden is, it still serves a purpose for the person that gets out and has a dig around and plants.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter what type of plants. They can be veggie plants, they can be rose bushes, they can be native plants, they can be bonsai, they can be cactus. They are all plants.
That's true. Cactus, yes. That reminds me, I think he has got overwatered. We'll move on. We won't enter that. But, yeah, seriously, get involved. And if you, regardless of what you think, the categories are there, check out the Shire's website, get involved. People anxious, if you've got an update on the Abernathy Road rail crossing?
Our Shire officers are working extremely closely with the Perth Transit Authority, PTA.
Yep.
There has been, over the years when the Abernathy Road upgrade has been done, a lot of planning, and that goes into place. There is certain equipment that needs to be used in the upgrade of the rail crossing, and obviously they don't have numerous numbers of these laying around because it's not something you use every day.
Sure.
And there's timing things. We don't want to be doing it during the school holidays. Well, we might want to do it during school holidays. It's trying to coordinate everybody and get everybody on the same page, and it can be a little bit like herding ducks. It's one of those things. It's not overly happy from my perspective that it has taken as long as it has, but I know our officers are working extremely hard and close with the PTA to get to a point where they have a date for that work to commence, and unfortunately we just have to let those processes work through the course that they need to work, but touch wood, I'm hoping that we have it done sooner rather than later.
Well, the reality is, of course, that anyone who has the slightest awareness of what it's like to have to organise an event, project management of this scale, that involves so many and the diversity of
it
those
is.
that have an interest.
And the Abernathy Road upgrade in itself has been a complex project, given the services that have needed to be moved, given the different service providers that have had to be involved, and the coordination of all of those as well. And this has run over numerous councils. It's the time frame of the project has run over numerous councils, and it has then run over numerous engineering directors at the Shire. The engineering director that we have at present is doing a magnificent job in the space that he's working in. He's had to come in and deal with contracts that were put in place before he was there, and there's probably things that weren't exactly the way they should have been, and he's made improvements in those that have benefited the community. But that's the job of the operational side of the Shire,
Sure.
and they have done a fantastic job in that space.
With that in mind, time's just about beaten us, but business as usual as far as the COVID's concerned within the Shire?
Look, yes, we're pretty much back to whatever normal is in regards to the opening of our facilities.
Yep.
Obviously, social distancing or physical distancing is still required. So our community facilities are open, but obviously the attendance numbers are not what they would normally have been.
Sure.
Pre-COVID times. I don't know if anybody can say we're back to normal, because what is normal? I think we're going to have a new kind of normal moving forward from now. Our local recovery committee is still meeting at Shire level, which has a vast array of people that actually attend those meetings. And then out of those meetings, we have two subgroups that meet. So we have an economic development or an economic group that meets to monitor and work with our businesses and make sure we're doing what we need to be doing in that space to support our businesses locally. We also have a community-based one, so that they're looking at all the demographics of our community and make sure that we've got our finger on the pulse and we're supporting the community in the places that we need to be supporting them to make sure that nobody's left behind through this process.
No, and to that extent, it's good to see that the return of some various programs and activities are underway, and I understand that with the school holidays coming up, of course, the mind of staff have been turned to that as well. And
and I think through the COVID process. We had to find different ways of doing things very, very quickly.
Sure.
I don't think that we will go back to everything the way it was before. I actually think we'll keep some of those new ways that we've found. Because we had to use them, we found they actually worked quite well. So I think there is going to be a new normal, and there'll be new opportunities for us, the way we communicate, the way we run services and events and that moving forward. Yeah, we will go back to some of the old, but there'll be quite a bit of the new
moving forward,
mixed forward in that as well.
Great news, and always appreciated that you share with us the good, the bad, and sometimes the things that just we have to live with within the Shire. That's all part of moving forward, and to that extent, if you've got any area of interest within the Shire, I certainly encourage you to go and have a look at the Shire of Serpentine Jarrahdale's website. And I know the communication, you're very very communicative on the social platforms, the Facebooks and whatever.
Yeah, look, the Shire's website, it is a relatively new website. It has been updated with new information all the time.
Looks good.
It does look good. It's easy to navigate. You know, I would recommend to anybody, jump on and have a look. And if you can't find what you're looking for, either ring the Shire or ring your councillors and ask the question. You know, the Shire runs quite an informative Facebook page as well, where there's a lot of information is put out to keep the community updated. And all we ask is that the community is respectful in the way that they communicate through that platform. And I think one of the big things, parts of the community can get quite frustrated and agitated over certain things that they don't see as happening as quickly as what they want it to happen, or that they can't see why something's been done and their bit's not been done. We have a huge amount of work that needs to be done in the Shire, and we can't do it all at once, and things are prioritised. They go through a process, and it's not prioritised just because this person wants it or that person wants it. There is method to the madness.
Absolutely.
And things like the Abernathy Road rail crossing, I'm just as frustrated with that as what members of the community are. But we have to be able to work with the state government department and get to a place where we can get this stuff done.
Of course.
And they're not always in the control of local government, and it doesn't always do us any benefit coming out and slamming somebody or a department. We need to work with these people and find the way forward, a positive way forward. So, and that's, as a council and as a local government Shire at the moment, that is what we do.
Absolutely. It's all about balancing communication and staying open. And to that extent, I appreciate, as I say, your communication, coming in and joining us in your capacity as the president, the Shire president for Serpentine Jarrahdale. And I look forward to catching up with you again, face to face. It's great that we're getting back to that part of normal as far as...
Look, James, I am more than happy at any time to come in and have a chat and push what SJ has, our positives, our negatives, what needs to be fixed, because we do have a lot that needs to be fixed, and we have those conversations with state and federal members all the time. I know there's a few state members out there who think that I am pushy, and I won't apologise for that. I will push for my community and what our needs and our wants are, and predominantly this time they are actually needs. They're not just nice to haves. They are things that we honestly desperately need.
Back to basics. Michelle Rich, thank you for joining us in your capacity as Shire President. Look forward to catching up with you again soon, and if nothing else, get out and enjoy those bush trails and opportunities.
I hope to see you out there. Say g'day on your way past.
Here on 107.3, you've got me. It's 5 minutes to 11, and Councillor Michelle Rich, Shire President for Serpentine Jarrahdale, will talk with you again soon.
Thank you very much, James.